Hey guys, Upony here, and today, well, I just want to make a quick video for Berserker and everyone else out there that's interested in making a boss bar that gradually increases or decreases properly. First things first, we're going to need to make a boss bar, which of course I have the commands here. I put it in a Visual Studio Code just to make it quick and easy for everyone to read. So you just add a boss bar add Bob, text Bob, color red, just for temporary. Boss bar set Minecraft Bob, players all players, so everyone can see it. And then boss bar set Minecraft Bob color green. That's also optional. Change whatever colors you want to do. I just put it as green to make it easy to read. And then you're going to want a scoreboard. Scoreboard objectives add boss bar dummy. So we have a dummy objective of boss bar. Not to confuse it with the boss bar command. Scoreboard players set Bob, boss bar 0, and then same thing for Bob temp, boss bar 0. We have two separate values. The first one is the main one, which is hidden, which is Bob. And then the second one, which is Bob temp, which is the one you're going to be seeing on the boss bar. We'll explain that in a bit. And then scoreboard objective set display sidebar boss bar, so you can see the objective sidebar of the boss bar just to make it easy for everyone to see. Okay, so now we're going to be adding the boss bar. So I already have it as a command, which is a function, boss bar create. And there's the boss bar on the top in the color green. And then scoreboard create, which is the commands we've done earlier. So if you guys want to read those commands, they are in the description, and they're on screen now, and on screen earlier. And there's that again. Well, with that out of the way, let's get to it. So, what exactly is Bob, and what exactly is Bob temp? Bob temp is the value that you're going to be seeing on the top of the screen. Bob, as the boss bar itself, which is a hidden value, is its true health. So behind me are some extra commands to loop and stuff to make it easier for everyone to build and everything. So we're going to focus on the storing of the score into the boss bar. We want to store the result into a boss bar of the name Bob, and we want to set it as a value. And then we want to run it as a scoreboard players get Bob temp boss bar. The reason we're going to be using temp, I'll be explaining in just a moment. But if we used Bob instead of boss bar, the value would instantly increase and decrease. As you guys can see. It instantly increases and decreases, which is not what we want. So, we're going to be using Bob temp for that. The reason we have Bob temp displayed is because we're adding and subtracting 1 each and every tick in the game until it matches the value of Bob. So we have these two command blocks down here called subtract temp to Bob and add temp to Bob. Don't worry about the overflow and underflow preventions yet. So what you want to do is execute if the score of the Bob temporary value of the boss bar is less than the Bob boss bar. The reason we're not using less than or equals to is because if we do match Bob and Bob temp, for example, let's say Bob is at value 20 and Bob temp is at 19. The Bob temp is less than or equals to Bob. So it will add 1 because at the end of the script we have it add Bob temp boss bar to 1 to try to match Bob. But because we tried doing less than or equals to, once it hits exactly the same value as Bob, so both values are the same, it's still going to detect that it's a true check for the scoreboard because it's now less than or equals to, which it's now equals exactly to Bob. So it's going to do another run. So that's why we don't use an equals to, and we only use a less than to prevent that error from happening. Game developers do this all the time. Scott Cawthon is no exception. It's happened a lot, and it's broken a lot of things. We're just game developers. It happens. So, TLDR, if Bob temp is less than the official Bob, then to add. But if Bob temp is greater than Bob, then to remove 1 value. This gives us the animation of adding and subtracting for the boss bar display. The overflow and underflow preventions are another great factor to have here, and this only applies to the official health bar that's hidden behind the scenes. If Bob boss bar matches 101 or higher, which we have our max cap at 100, we set Bob's boss bar back to 100 exactly to prevent any issues there. And same thing vice versa. If it is -1 and lower, we set it to 0 to fix that issue. This has no effect on the temporary boss bar. The temporary boss bar will eventually keep up, but there should be no issues during the transition of trying to match Bob temp to Bob. It's just an overflow and underflow prevention, because if you go above the value and you try to subtract, nothing will visually display because it's already over the limit. Same thing vice versa to under the limit. So it's just a prevention there. So now that we got that, like I displayed earlier, if we add 10, it goes up by 10. If we remove 10, it goes down by 10. And it's a nice smooth transition. Also keep an eye on both the boss bar and also the scoreboard on the right. You will see exactly what happens. When we add exactly 100 to Bob's boss bar, the Bob boss bar is immediately set to 100, but the Bob temp is following up, which gives us that animation. Same thing for subtracting. You can already see that it's going down slowly, but Bob is already at 0. When you're trying to code a game for a boss fight in general, and you want the boss to die as soon as that value hits 0, depending on how much damage you do, and how much damage is available in that game for the weapons of choice or whatever to make the health lower, there's 2 ways to keep the boss health in check for the death animation. You can either use the Bob value that's behind the scenes, so the official health behind the scenes one, which would also add an effect if the weapon is way too powerful. It's going to die before the health bar drains completely. But if you want it to completely drain visually and then have the death animation, then you're going to want to use the temporary value as the detection for when the death scene should play. But of course, depending on weapon balance and what you got available in the game for damage and stuff, that's one thing to keep an eye out for. And also, if you want your health bar to be a little bit more fancy, I also did this right here, kind of like what Pokemon's done, with green if full, yellow if half, and red if low. I have it disabled right now because there's a lever behind there that's off. It's another check and execute. So we're going to start with red if low. If the boss bar temporary is 0 through 20, then to change the color to red. The reason we want to use the temporary is because if we use the official value, it would instantly change color if that value were set to true. So to prevent that, and to make it look smooth and percentage based on the value above, we use the temporary value as the check. And then same thing for 21 through 50 for yellow, which also be aware, do not mix values for other colors. For example, let's say red is going from 0 to 20, and we put yellow at 20 to 50 instead of 21 to 50, then we have an issue if the health is exactly 20, where both of these commands are fighting each other and constantly trying to check and change what the right color is, because they're both the same value and they're both successful. So to prevent that, we do 21 through 50, and then of course change the color to yellow. Same thing here. Checking if it's 51 to 100, sending it to green. So let's activate that, and you guys will see the colors immediately change on the boss bar. And when we increase health, you can see it's changing colors. And of course, if we decrease, you can see that it decreases just like Pokemon. Just like that. One last thing before we wrap things up. If you guys want to change the values to make it a little quicker, you guys can. So let's say you want a slow fill-in for the boss fight initiating, then go with a lower value for the adding factor. The adding factor. I think I flipped these signs by complete accident, so we're just going to ignore those. So we're going to do the adding factor. So the adding factor is just going to be 1, which is the slowest we can do with this value. There is no decimal system. But if you want it to be even slower, you're going to have to increase the health. So instead of it being 100, it would be 1000, and you can just use 10 or less and adjust from there to make the boss bar slower regeneration-wise. There's that as well as an option. But if you want the health to drain very quickly to help compensate for the right damage, so it's not misleading, increase the removal rate. We're going to increase the removal rate by 3 so you guys can see the difference. So the boss is spawning. Let's do 10 damage. That's quick. That's nice and quick. But let's slow that down. It might be a little too fast. Nice. Looks clean. Oh no, he got some health. It's increasing. Let's do some big damage. Nice. As you guys can see, that's how you can make a proper boss bar with a proper fading in and out animation, with a proper increase and decrease animation for a nice and smooth transition for your game to look even better. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Leave a like, show us to your friends, and have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!